Hey, what's up? Hello, everyone. Welcome into Fantasy Filmball, the show where we turn movies into sports and sports into something we don't talk about here. My name is Matt.
My name is Dyl, and we are back again with another box office predictions video for the month of November. If you notice on this channel, we have a history of not really doing great in these. The last month seemed like a shoe-in to go 3 for 3. Taylor Swift Eras was going to set the world on fire. Kills of the Flower Moon was going to overperform because of the great buzz around it. And Five Nights at Freddy's was going to explode, and one of those three things did happen, like we would say. Five Nights at Freddy's did go over. Killers, though, it went under, and Taylor Swift barely missed that 100 million domestic opening. But, you know, it's November now. It's a chance for us to be redeemed. And this first one, to me, seems pretty easy. But again, when we think something's easy, it never is. And that is with our brand new Marvel movie, The Marvels. And currently, the box office forecast for this is between $45 and $62 million for an opening around 53.5, which is abysmal when you think about Captain Marvel, which made $100 million more than this range that we're going with at this moment with 153. Eternals, Shang-Chi, both were in the $70 million range. So this is going to be a new low for the MCU, honestly, forever.
Yeah, well, I mean, keep in mind, you know why Captain Marvel made as much money as it did, right?
It was the first movie after Infinity Wars. You know, the MCU high was blowing up.
Not just that. The whole reason is that the marketing plan for Captain Marvel was, if you don't see this, you'll have no idea what's happening in Endgame, which wasn't true, but they tied them together. They made it seem like you had to see Captain Marvel to see Endgame. So really, that's why the character was so huge, and I think people are forgetting that Captain Marvel didn't become a box office sensation in a vacuum. It became a box office sensation because of that. Now, I want to preface this by saying I am an idiot when it comes to box office. I mean, my track record on this channel shows that I know nothing about box office. I'm just going on gut reactions here. Dylan, you study this stuff a little bit more. You play in some leagues with box office. I know nothing. So my opinion, take it with a grain of salt. But I'm going to say, to me, the Marvels, the buzz around it, and the overall atmosphere of superhero fatigue makes me feel like this isn't going to do much better than Shazam did earlier this year or that Blue Beetle did. So I'm going to say under. If our line here is 53.5, I see it going far under. You know, I could see it even missing that 45 mark, the low end of the predictions. I could see it with 40 million.
Yeah, I mean, you say that I know what I'm talking about. Clearly this year, I've just taken L after L. Last year, I did really good, and pre-pandemic, I would send the world on fire with this stuff. But I don't know. 2023 has not been my year. But this 53.5, I'm going to agree. I'm going to go below. But I'm going to be more in that 45 to 50 range. I think that it will look like it will go over all weekend, but walk-ups will be pretty bad. Going from a movie that drastically is going to underdo what its predecessor did to another one, but this one is looking a little bit better than the Marvels, and that is Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Because if you go to the Hunger Games franchise history, 152, 158, 121, 101 domestic first week openings. This movie is not looking to do that at all. It's looking to do about half of that. 38 to 50. Our line is 44. But unlike the Marvels, this movie does have good buzz. Critics seem to really like it, and I think the audience that this is intended for are going to eat it up. So this 44, I am going over, and I think this could be our surprise of this fall winter type box office season.
I agree with you, and the buzz for this movie is really positive going into this week. I've been seeing Twitter reviews all day, people just saying this is the best Hunger Games movie, if not since Catching Fire, better than Catching Fire. I've seen some people say that, and Catching Fire, great movie. Now, the thing that is going to make people a little bit more scared with the projections for this movie, maybe under-predict it, is that these movies came out 10 years ago. You know, where's the audience for that? Is the audience still going to show up? Because this is a movie for teenagers. But what they're underestimating is that, TikTok has totally revived the Hunger Games series. These books are popular with teenagers. And as we saw with Five Nights at Freddy's, teenagers will show up to the movies. They do. They'll go. I have no doubt Hunger Games goes over that 44 million mark. Maybe not by a ton. It's not going to be the sensation that Catching Fire was with 158 million opening weekend, but it's going to do better than people think it will. And I think it's going to set up, if they do a sequel to this movie, it's going to set it up for even more success in the future.
I think the one thing that could hurt this movie to maybe make it go under is the longer runtime. It's pushing 230, 240, but we've seen long movies make money. If the movie's good and the audience wants it, people will show up, and I don't think that will be a problem with this Hunger Games installment. But we talk about positive word of mouth. Let's go back to a movie that has toxic word of mouth, and that is Taika Waititi's next film, Next Goal Wins. It's projected to make it between $4 and $9 million with a line of 6.5, and there's not really a good comparable for this because most of Taika's movies open very small, or they're the MCU ones that open very large. But I guess let's pull Jojo Rabbit in its first weekend in over 600 theaters, where it had about 800. It made $3.9 million, but it had multiple weeks in this $3 to $5 million range because it kept bouncing between theaters as it was getting more press. But Next Goal Wins seems to be going wide up front. 6.5, I'm going to go under. I think not every movie on this day, because 4 movies are coming out on this day, not all of them can succeed. I think this will be the back of the track.
I agree with you. It's going under. There's no real word of mouth for this, and it's an indie movie that needs that word of mouth. It needs to be something that people are excited to go and check out, and I don't see that being what happens with Next Goal Wins. The word of mouth is toxic, and the advertising is basically non-existent, it feels. So I say under.
That brings us to Trolls Band Together movie I'm actually somewhat excited for. I've not liked either of the Trolls movies very much, but I love the music in them. So I'm excited for a new soundtrack of great JT and ensemble like cover songs. And the first Trolls opened at $46 million. As we all know, Trolls 2, Trolls World Tour did not go to theaters. It was the first premium video on demand release that we had during the pandemic. And this one's projected to do between $23 and $33 million. Our line is going to be about 28. And I mean, if you think about it, a lot of these family movies, more younger screen films, don't open huge, but they have great legs because Sing 2 came out around the Christmas time about 2 years ago. It only opened about $22 million, but it went on to make like 150, 160 domestically. And I could see Trolls Band Together do the same thing. If our line's 28, I'm going to go slightly over. I think that families will want to go out here. Maybe the older kids go out to Hunger Games while the younger kids can now go to Trolls. So 28, it may slightly miss that, but I don't think that would be bad for this movie. I still think this will reach $100 million domestic.
Oh, it could reach far more than that, honestly. I agree with everything you said. I'm going over on this one, but that said, there is the possibility that it goes slightly under, but I could see this ending up making $150 to $200 million domestic by the end of its run. Like you said, family movies have long legs, and the reason for that is that a lot of families are in no rush to go and see the latest films. I was just seeing Priscilla the other day, and the theater on a Sunday was packed with families. And we're like, what? Is there a new family movie this week? Nope, they were all there for Taylor Swift.
That brings us to our last movie coming out on November 17th, which is a weird date because Thanksgiving's the following weekend, but you talk about TikTok stars, you talk about Taylor Swift. We got Addison right here with Thanksgiving. $10 to $15 million projections. Our line is 12.5. And Matt, I'm going to let you go first here because we've agreed on everything so far, and I'm just going to do the opposite of whatever you say. Just, spice it up, make it fun.
I had no idea this movie was coming out. It seems like a horror movie that no one cares about. I just know it's Eli Roth. That's it. I say under. I mean, if 12.5s are a line, we've seen multiple horror movies miss that mark this year, from Last Voyage of the Demeter to The Boogeyman. Like, those movies haven't done that well. And this one I don't think will either. So I say below.
And, just so we're different on something, I'll go over. I think, who knows, maybe the TikTok crowd for Addison Rae, they show up. They're like, that's my girl. I want to see her on the big screen. Eli Roth fans crawl out of the depths of Reddit and Twitter to show up in a movie theater to support him. Be like, give him more movies. I don't know. I feel like this could either hit the 20 to 25 or just bomb and go $5 million. I think this 10 to 15 is a weird range. I think it either goes drastically over or drastically under. Now we get to the actual weekend of Thanksgiving, and there's two ways we can go about this. We can go about predicting the 3-day weekend or the 5-day, but I think staying consistent with everything else we're doing, we should do the 3-day weekend. So our first title here is to be Ridley Scott's Napoleon. Its 3-day projections are between 16 and 21 for about 18.5 million. Go back to some other Ridley Scott movies. House of Gucci did 14.2 in this 3-day window. Exodus, God and Kings, which is also about the same runtime, did about $24 million. And then you made a great comparable when we were preparing for this. Hacksaw Ridge, another awards hopeful that's also a historical, like, epic sort of thing. That put about
maybe like the last
$15.6 million.
Maybe the last successful one like that, because we haven't had many of those, like, big, wide release epics that have gone on to be Best Picture nominees lately. So Hacksaw Ridge might be the last one, unless you consider 1917 that, but that wasn't a wide release on its opening weekend. It started limited, so it's not really exactly the same. But Dylan, how are you following in Napoleon?
I'm not exactly sure how to go about this because the 5-day tracking is $23 to $32 million, which isn't that much higher. So I feel like this is going to be a weird one because I could see the chance where this very much overperforms on the physical weekend while starting off slow, or doing the reverse of that because this is an older skewing movie. It's a little bit longer. It's going to need probably word of mouth to draw people to come out. So I'm going to go with this 18.5. I'm going to go slightly under for the 3, but if it's 5-day is 23 to 32, I could see it hitting about what the line would have been for that. So I'm going to go slightly under for the 3, but a little bit over for the 5. So I guess for the record books, I'm going under.
Well, here we are matching up again because I'm also going under. I have no confidence in Napoleon. If Exodus, Gods and Kings made 24 million, though, maybe that's an angle for this to make more. But I think it's a different time. I don't think people really want to see this movie. I see no hype for this online. Maybe that's not where the crowd for this movie is. But I just don't see the crowd for this movie actually going and showing up to it. So I say under.
And that brings us to our final movie, which I think has the most interesting stat lines for the month of November, and that is Disney's Wish. Its 3-day projections are about 40 to 60, so that makes our line at 50. If you look for its 5-day projections, it is 57 to 86.8. So there's a wide range here. I think the best place to go is the last one of these Disney musicals to open up on the Thanksgiving week, and that was Encanto. Its 3-day was 27.2. Its 5-day was $40 million. Obviously, a lot different time. That was fresh out of COVID. Theaters were just opening back up. And something we talked about in our last song predictions, Disney made the mistake with Encanto with not putting the songs out ahead of time. Wish they're doing differently. They're putting the songs out. Are people loving the songs? That's up for debate. But my TikTok page is flooded with both of these songs. Maybe it's not about the songs themselves. Maybe it's making fun of the songs. But people are at least hearing these songs ahead of time, which I think will help for this. If our line is 50, I don't feel good about it, but I'm going to go slightly over.
I'm going under. So there we are, matching up again. But just like I said with Trolls, this is going to do very well in the long run, the same way that we saw with Elemental, the same way that we saw with Encanto. The thing with Disney movies right now is that Disney has spent so much time building up the Disney Plus brand that a lot of families don't go to the theaters to see the latest Disney movie because they know, give it 2 months, it'll be out on their TV at home. So to me, with families who, typically, like I was saying earlier, by the time that a lot of them end up going to the theaters to see the movie, it's already out. So I say under. I don't think that there's a rush to go and see the latest Disney movie. I'm not sure if the advertising campaign for this one has been all that successful, and people haven't really caught on to the songs. Maybe they're on TikTok all over the place, but they're not. We don't talk about Bruno. Mm-hmm. A major thing that I hear with these songs is that people are saying they're hard to sing along to. And that's a death sentence for a Disney movie. You need to have songs that little kids can belt out. Let it go. Let it go. You could, like a toddler can sing that. This Wish, no toddler is going to be able to sing that song. And no toddler that hears that song is going to be like, Mom, I need to go see Wish. No. I don't think so. So also coupled with the fact that there's a new art style, maybe that could kind of maybe that could possibly distance it a little bit from the typical Disney brand and make it less identifiable to families that want to go see something new. They might see trailers for it and go, oh, what's that? That doesn't look like a Disney movie. That's just hypothetical. But to me, my gut is telling me under.
Well, for everyone out there, as always, consider dropping a subscription to stay up to date with all the content that we're pumping out here on Fantasy Filmball. Consider a like because it helps our channel grow and keeps you involved. And as always, my name is Dyl.
And my name is Matt, and this is Fantasy Filmball.